Thanks for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and this is my special co-host, William.
Hey.
And today we're going to be discussing the first game of the finals, and as well as a little bit about the free agency with Kevin Durant and seeing where he's going to go, as well as a little bit about the draft. This podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about everything that's in the news for the NBA and college basketball. So keep it tuned in, and we will talk a little bit about college hoops, NBA basketball, and everything in between.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Now, Game 1 of the finals took place just yesterday, June 2nd, and as we all know, the Golden State Warriors won, defeating Cleveland 104-89, but it wasn't necessarily as exciting, I think, as a lot of people predicted it to be. It was a good win for Golden State. However, Stephen Curry only shot 4 of 15, and Klay Thompson contributed only 9 points, so the two main scorers that I think a lot of people, especially who enjoy watching Golden State play, were really quiet that game. And luckily for Golden State, you know, their bench really came in and contributed for them and picked up a lot of that slack, which is great for Golden State. I really enjoy how it's a team effort. I think that Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green do get a lot of FaceTime and everything because of how they play and the points that they do put up. But in this particular case, in Game 1, it was the bench that held it down for them and made sure that they were able to get that win. The Golden State bench actually outscored the Cavaliers 45-10, their bench, and alone just off turnovers, Golden State had 25 points. So I think that Golden State was able to pull out that win based off the bench contributing a lot and a lot of mistakes that Cleveland had. So even though Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson didn't have that outstanding of a game, they were able to make up for it. So what are your thoughts on that, William?
You know, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that Cleveland tried to use the same game plan that they used against Toronto, where they were limiting the star players in DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. But, you know, it really didn't work with Golden State Warriors. The bench is much stronger on Golden State, so they just played. I mean, Sean Livingston had a great game, and really the turning point of the game was the foul that Matthew Dellavedova had on Andre Iguodala. I mean, he hit him low, and from then on, that's when they really took a lead, and it was a 21-4 run, I believe, where Sean Livingston and company just took over the game.
Right, and going off that, Sean Livingston did contribute 20 points. Barbosa, who's been a little bit quiet, you know, not having as much playing time, he put in 11. Iguodala had 12 points, 7 rebounds. So it really was good for the bench. And like you said, Cleveland, I don't think really took that into account, that their bench is deep and that guys that they put in, Coach Kerr did say all of their guys want to win. So regardless of who he puts in, they're going to come in with the same tenacity and that drive that you would get from the starters. His bench works just as hard as his starters do.
Yeah, when you triple team and double team Clay and Curry, you're going to leave other guys open. And that's what Golden State really took advantage of. And the defensive liability that Cleveland had was in Kyrie Irving. You saw a lot of backdoor cuts, and that's really going to be a major storyline going into the future. Is Kyrie going to be able to adapt to this? Is he going to be able? I mean, he had a great game on the offensive side, as well as Kevin Love and LeBron, but they just weren't meshing on defense. So that's going to be something to look out for in the future.
I definitely think that Cleveland will, reevaluate their defense. And that's another thing that LeBron did mention in the post-game interviews, is that their bench was getting outscored. They had a lot of turnovers. Like I said, Golden State had 25 points just off turnovers. They weren't shooting very well at all. So LeBron did mention that, he actually himself had 23 points and 12 rebounds. So he was putting in work himself. However, like I mentioned before, Golden State did make 25 points off of 17 turnovers that the Cavaliers had. So they're going to have to tighten it up on both ends of the court in order to try to, Golden State didn't have that great of a game as far as their star players are concerned. So if this is what is happening when Golden State is shooting less than 40%, then when they're really kicking in together, when Stephen Curry really produces what we're used to him doing, then I really think the Cavaliers are in trouble.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a great time. I mean, there was a great point in the game where it was the end of the third and going into the fourth, where LeBron was on the bench and he was just shaking his head. He put his hand in his face and he was like, we're messing up. And Kevin Love's right next to him. He's trying to console him. Right. And that was just hilarious to me. And that was when LeBron knew that the game was getting out of hand. And I know he's a big stickler on teamwork and everything. And he's all about winning. And I think Curry and Clay are the same way. So if this is what it's going to take for them to win, the bench stepping up and really playing more of a pivotal role, then I think both teams are fine with that. It's just who's going to adjust and who's going to be the one that comes out on top.
Right. And with Cleveland, I think both teams, the starters weren't, for the most part, a lot of their starters for both sides weren't doing as well. But then, like J.R. Smith only had 3 points, and that was in the second half. He's not producing anything, basically, for a championship, series. That's not acceptable. I would think I would be really upset. So that's something that I know that Cleveland, I'm sure, is going to work on, is trying to do that. But then at the same time, like you said, if it's going to be the bench that's going to produce, then, Golden State can let that happen. Clearly it's fine. Sean Livingston, and the Golden State's bench is not terrible. Like, it's not like they're just all of a sudden doing well and we don't understand where all this greatness is coming from off the bench. These guys are good. Sean Livingston is a good player. Iguodala is a great player. Barbosa, they're not guys that can't play. So, and I think that Cleveland may have forgotten that. I don't know if they overlook them.
Honestly, I think that, if you put Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, and Barbosa on any other team in the league, they could be starters. I've been watching basketball for decades, and I'm really happy about Sean Livingston because he went through a crazy injury when he was younger, like right when he got into the league. If you guys haven't looked at it yet, he basically snapped his leg after he was dunking and trying to land on it. Very similar to the Paul George injury. And what he's done to come back and all the rehab that he's done, he was a journeyman when he was trying to get back, but the time with the Wizards, that really helped him come back, and you're really seeing the fruits of his labor back here on Golden State.
Right. So we're going to cut to a break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss a little bit about Kevin Durant, also what we think is going to happen with the rest of this series, how it's going to turn out, and a little bit about free agency.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. And before the break, we were talking about Game 1 of the NBA Finals and how Golden State's bench really stepped it up to make sure that their team secured that win. And throughout the playoffs, we've seen a lot of players for Golden State. It was their entire bench that came out to do it. But before then, it was Kevin Durant and his team. You know, he really tried his best to make that, you know, to end that base god curse on himself and his team. And it almost looked like they were going to do it. It did. But what do you think happened with OKC? You know, I mean, I personally think that Stephen Curry, as we said before, Stephen Curry and the Warriors, he said it himself, they're not going home. They have that mentality. And I know that LeBron has that same mentality, you know, and he's trying to, you know, put that mentality into his team. I know that they're a lot younger, and he's been, you know, in the playoffs, and 6 times he's been in the finals. So this is not new to him at all. But where do you think, with Stephen Curry and his team and LeBron and the Cavaliers, who's going to step up this time? You know, is it going to be the stars who we think it's going to be, or are we all going to get surprised and it's going to be the bench? It's going to be a bench's win.
You know, I think the X factors in this series are going to be the bigs. You have Anderson, Varejao, and Bogut on the Warriors, and on Cleveland you have Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, and Timothy Nosgaz. I mean, he's not really the player that he was after the surgery that he had. His knee and his athleticism really isn't there, but he's going to play a role when the bench is out there. So that's the main thing that is a weakness for the Warriors. I mean, they can't defend as well down low because they're a relatively small team. They circumvent that through ball movement and passing and trying to up the pace, but what Cleveland wants to do is really slow it down. They have increased the pace since Tyronn Lue has taken reign as coach, but they need to slow it down because they can't compete with the Warriors in terms of 3-point contests and all this fast breaks that the Warriors just thrive with. So it's going to be really who's going to play half-court game, and that's where I see Cleveland trying to make some adjustments. But I'm not sure if they're going to be able to. They're definitely going to be able to out-rebound the Warriors just like OKC did. But what we're going to see is who's going to step up in terms of bigs. And is it going to be enough just to have Varejao and Bogut and a little bit of Draymond Green on the Warriors to beat the Cavaliers? Because as Game 1 showed, that definitely was enough. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future, but those are going to be the X factors.
Right. And so I have to ask you, who's going to win the series?
Well, honestly, I do have the Warriors, but, you know, when LeBron turns his mode on and he just gets in the zone.
But the Warriors weren't all the way on up, too.
Yeah, definitely. You know, but, you know, it's going to be a close series in terms of if Cleveland can make the adjustments, it's going to be closer than it was in that game. I mean, up until midway through the third quarter, it was a really close game. Kevin Love was on point. It was just that at that point, that's when the bench really took over, and there were some defensive liabilities, and the momentum just really swayed on the Warriors' side. But if you bring this back to Cleveland, I think it's going to be a closer series. I mean, we saw how successful OKC was, But again, that was Curry coming off of injury. We're going to see how they're going to adjust.
Right. And I don't know if you heard about this, but Stephen Curry is actually really looking forward to playing in Cleveland. He said in an interview that he is excited to see whether or not it still smells like champagne from last year, the visitors' locker room.
Oh,
so man. I don't think, which I thought was just great because, Stephen Curry, everybody, looks at him as a really nice guy, which I'm sure he is, and everything, but they forget that he's also a competitor. So I think that comment really took people aback.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of Curry fans in Cleveland since he's from that area. But we'll see. We'll see how
that goes. So there has been also a lot of talk about who is the better player, Stephen Curry versus LeBron. There's been a lot of speculation that overall LeBron is a better player, well-rounded player, but then there's also the other side where people are saying, if Curry and the Golden State Warriors win and beat LeBron again, a second time, even at his own home again, and he gets, he has the MVP's accolades as well, that he's right there with him, if not past him.
When we're looking at a basketball aspect, LeBron is the most complete player to ever play the game. I mean, he may not be the best player when you talk about wins and being competitive in terms of when you're talking about Michael Jordan, but as far as the total package and what he brings to a team, there really hasn't been a player like him. I mean, the closest was Magic Johnson, but he's just really taken it to another level. And in terms of that, if you take LeBron and you put him on any team, he's going to succeed. I don't know if Curry's going to succeed as much on every team if he was just dropped in there because Golden State actually hides him a lot defensively. They try to play a lot of zone and just hide him defensively, and that's what that whole big deal about OKC dissing him and Russell Westbrook laughing at his defense was about. But when you're talking about LeBron, he can guard pretty much every player on the court, and he can do anything. He can play all 5 positions.
Right. So I guess we'll have to see. I mean, I think it's still fairly early in both their careers, especially with Curry. He hasn't had enough time to prove a lot of other things that LeBron has proven and LeBron has accomplished also. So I think a lot of people they start making predictions on future, what's going to happen in the future. Curry's going to be the best player in the future, but, as of right now.
Bar none, Curry is the best shooter that's ever graced this planet. I mean, the shots that he takes and from where he takes it and how fast he does it and what he can do with little time and his clutch gene. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're talking about one of the greats already in terms of shooting. But as far as the whole package, we're going to have to see how he grows and develops. I mean, he's a 2-time MVP, and he looked like the most improved player this year. So he has a lot of room to grow, and we'll see how he takes it.
All right, so after this break, we're going to discuss a little bit on Kevin Durant and free agency and what's to come for him, as well as some of the other players in the free agency. Golden State and the Cavaliers will be at it again at the Oracle Arena this Sunday, June 5th at 5 Pacific time, but we will be right back.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, and we've been discussing a lot about the playoffs and the championship series right now, but there's a lot of excitement going to be happening this off season. There are the Olympics in Brazil, which is going to be a lot of fun. So luckily this summer, basketball really will not stop. But then also with the off season, there's the draft coming up on June 23rd. And there's a lot this year. They did something different with the draft. They allowed the players, the guys, to decide. They gave them, that time period to decide whether or not they wanted to follow through with the draft and forego their last, or well, for some of them their last, but others, forego the rest of their college basketball eligibility, or to return to college. And I think personally that was a good thing, that was a good change, because any decision that you make as far as the next step in your career is a big deal. But then for some of these guys, they're taking that next step and getting a feel for it and trying to decide what is the best. And a lot of these guys are young. They're 19, 20 years old. These are guys that are real young. And they're making life-changing decisions for themselves. Some of them do have the help of family and coaching staff to support them. But for some of them, I can see why it would be kind of scary to make that plunge and decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go professional. But then if it doesn't pan out, now they're stuck, hopefully being able to play in, playing overseas or, the D League. But then I think this year, with giving them that opportunity to get a feel for it, first, and kind of put some feelers out to decide, and then still having that chance to go back to college takes a little bit of that pressure off. What do you think about that?
I definitely agree. I really think it's a really forward-thinking move by the NBA. You watch a lot of sports players and a lot of stars, and we've all seen the Broke documentary in terms of all the sports players that have retired or got injured, and they're just not the same player, and they lose their career, and then in a sense they really lose their identity. Well, now that they have the option to stay in college, get their education, get a degree, they have something to fall back on, and it's not like sports is their entire career. And that's a lot of things, a lot of people, and a lot of sports athletes out there. They think they're going to be the best. They think they're going to make it, and they just don't have a backup plan because that's not their mindset. And with the NBA and what's happening now, they're really taking all these variables in consideration and really thinking about the people, not the athletes.
Right. And actually, exactly just how you said, thinking of them as more than just part of the business plan, giving these young men that opportunity to decide what they feel is best for them, and some of these guys are great in college. They are great college athletes and college ball players. But then the NBA is a whole nother level. That's a whole, people say a whole nother ball game. And it truly is. The guys are much bigger. They're older. They've been playing longer. Some of the guys that, you have these kids playing with guys that they looked up to, that they had their poster on the wall growing up, and now they're teammates. So, which I think is exciting also. That's kind of cool to, be in a jersey with somebody that you've looked up to. But at the same time, this is a little boy playing. And we talk about that kind of stuff, even with the college recruiting process. There are a lot of high school athletes that are just as, they're great at the high school level, but how does that talent translate at the next level, so, and having the opportunity to get a college education, and for these guys, for free is something that's, a big deal too, that will benefit them in the future as well. And the draft, like I said, is coming up on June 23rd. The top 5 picks as of yet are the 76ers, Lakers, Celtics, the Suns, and the Timberwolves. So who do you think got the better end with this lottery?
Oh, I definitely think that the Sixers got exactly what they're looking for in the process. They are going to most definitely take Ben Simmons. So And what I'm really excited about in this draft is the fact that the league is changing. I mean, what the player of the future is going to be is someone that can play as many positions as possible, and that's what you have with Ben Simmons. And it's going to be really great to watch that. After him and the second pick, it gets a little bit muddy. I know that the Celtics wanted that third pick that they almost had, but they just wasn't meant to be. We're not going to talk about how the draft is rigged or anything like that, but yeah.
So, and with the draft hand in hand, well, in a way, hand in hand is free agency. You know, that is an exciting, nerve-wracking time as well for players. Kevin Durant is a free agent this year. He averaged 28 points in both the regular season and postseason. He has been faithful with, OKC, and he's played well with them. They've done well. But is it time now, as a free agent? I'm sure, he has stated that he's taking a time to reflect during this offseason and kind of decide what he wants to do next. OKC, we now have that, that cap, which is, that extended cap. So he could potentially get a lot more money and stay. But then at the same time, he is a DC native. The Wizards, they have, Brooks over there too. Does he go home? Does he stay put? Does he come to Golden State, who potentially will be a 2-time championship team? If you're Kevin Durant, what are you considering?
Well, I'm considering all of that. And this is where his career is starting to parallel that of LeBron's. I mean, he's not able to do it in OKC, and he's got close. He's been to the finals. He has a great supporting cast. No, LeBron didn't have the great supporting cast in Cleveland back in his first stint, but they got really close. I mean, they took the Warriors to their limit, and honestly, they should have taken that series, but they just kind of fell apart at the end there. But, I don't think that he should leave, or I think he should sign a 2-year contract. As you mentioned, the salary cap is going to play a factor into this, but I think he should sign like a 1-year or 2-year contract to stay with them, try to win a championship. And I'm not sure if he's similar to LeBron in that he wants to go back home. I know he's very fond of Washington and where he's from, but I don't know if I think he really likes OKC and what he has there.
So what do you think about that curse, though? The base god curse. I don't want to believe it. I don't. I think it's just a lot of fun, and it just so happens. But, do you think that plays into it too, as far as like his mentality and people's mentality with OKC? Because a lot of people really believe in it, and a lot of people think that it's Kevin Durant that's the problem.
Well, I don't think Kevin thinks that way. I don't think a lot of athletes think that way because they're all about eliminating all the negative thoughts in their mind. I mean, if anything comes in their mind and tries to downplay any of the things that they're doing, they're going to lose confidence, and that's what they definitely don't want to do. They don't believe in all the superstition that's more of the outside speculation and more of the gossip side. So I think
that's
I don't
the
think
entertainment side.
Yeah, I don't think that plays a factor in his thinking, but as far as salary cap, the best environment for him, and what he has right now, that's going to be the major factors in considering where he's going to go. And honestly, I think he stays in OKC.
All right. So we'll see. I guess only time will tell now as far as like what he's going to do. I'm sure him, along with a lot of other free agents, are deciding, what is the best fit and the next step for them and what teams ultimately will offer them and what they can do. Offer them money-wise, offer them playoff, wise, the future for them as far as like being on a team that will go somewhere. Because that's the ultimate reward and why they play is to, get that ring at the end of the season.
It's a really exciting time to be an NBA fan. I mean, the sport's exploding more than ever since the Jordan era. You have international players coming from all over the place, especially China and Europe. So it's going to be a great time to be a fan.
Thank you. So You have been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. This was our first episode. I thank you, William, for sitting in with me on today's show. You can listen to us on iTunes, Google Play, as well as SoundCloud, or you can, of course, listen to us at goldenstatemediaconceptspodcast.com. Thank you.